Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining after the big lunch break. Never had the experience having lunch with a glass of champagne. That's only possible in Paris, and I think it's the right way to enjoy a conference. And for me, it's a great honor and pleasure today to host, I think, a fantastic panel about blockchain and Bitcoin, about the current state, what's coming down the road, because we have here, and it's really hard to find, two leading blockchain platform providers. We have a leading VC company in the blockchain business. We have a startup out of the cryptocurrency area that did a very successful ICO. And we have with SETL also a company that's providing blockchain solutions. So, Joe, if you want to start first introducing yourself and what do you do?
Thank you, Oliver, panel. So my background is mostly technology, a little bit of finance. I did a decade of software engineering, robotics, machine vision, AI work. Spent a little time at the Goldman Sachs company and transitioned at that point to the world of finance. I was involved in running a hedge fund. Became aware of the Bitcoin space early on, but for various reasons, I was fascinated by the technology, became expert in the technology, but didn't want to commit myself to 16-hour days, 6.5 days a week. It was an immature space at that point. When I read Vitalik Buterin's white paper describing the Ethereum platform, it described a scalable way in terms of human resources to bring the promise of the blockchain, the promise of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper to the world. Instead of just a single money application on this new trustworthy infrastructure, Vitalik described a way where you didn't need protocol priests to build one use case at a time, and millions of average software developers around the world could identify their own problems and build their own solutions. So jumped onto that project in the very early days. A year later, I started a company called Consensys to continue the vision of the Ethereum project and platform. We operate along 5 prongs of activity. We build a lot of infrastructure for the Ethereum ecosystem. We build core components like identity, reputation, decentralized governance, accounting, and we build north of 25 protocol-based open platforms. We can talk a bit about some of those going on. Or do enterprise and government consulting. We do education in the form of Consensys Academy, and we do a few different capital markets activities.
And I think you have 500 employees, is that correct, roughly?
That was this morning. We're at 615 right now, actually.
Wow, that's okay. Thank you. David Rutter from CEO of R3, if you want to introduce yourself.
It's actually 616 now, Joe.
616.
So I'm David Rutter. I'm the founder and CEO of R3, which is an enterprise software company that has built a platform called Corda that is specifically designed for the very high requirements and standards for regulated financial firms, specifically to support high-value transactions. My experience, I've been in finance for 32 years. For the 10 prior years before starting R3 in September 2015, I was the CEO of a couple big OTC exchanges in U.S. Treasuries called BrokerTec. Many of you will be aware with it. They're also involved in the EGB market as well, and in the spot FX world, EBS. So I had many years of experience in trying to introduce new technologies to banks and build an appreciation for how difficult and challenging that can be. So when we were inspired, as Joe mentioned, by some of the technologies that came before, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, IBM's Fabric was then called, I think, Blue Chain or something like that.
Open blockchain.
Okay, that's what it was called. Okay, there you go. So we had a chance to kind of look at those technologies and then work with what is a large network of banks. We have 40-some banks as investors. We have a partner network of financial institutions and regulators and partners of over 200 firms now, focused on designing and building the platform for the future of finance in the cloud, essentially. And Oliver, thank you for hosting today, and I'm glad to be here at this panel.
Excellent. Now we have Julian Hosp, Chairman TenX out of Singapore.
So I'm Julian. I'm the co-founder and president of TenX. I learned about cryptocurrencies in 2014. I have a completely different background. I come out of medicine. I studied medicine, worked as a surgeon, and that non-business, non-tech, non-finance kind of transutes through the entire company. At TenX, we want to make cryptocurrencies usable, spendable. We offer a debit card where people can connect different cryptocurrencies to. They only need one card, one app, and then they can just go and spend their Bitcoin, Ether, Dash, tokens, and so on, online, offline, all around the world. So for us, it's really about usability. We do a lot of education for the ecosystem, especially in the German markets, but also internationally. We have this hashtag called CryptoFit to make people fit in crypto, because I believe there's so much misunderstanding, and this kind of keeps, on the one hand, banks and regulators from being open in this space, and it keeps a lot of people from actually using these opportunities. Yeah, so pleasure to be on this panel.
Thank you, Julian. Michael?
Hi, my name is Michael Jackson. I'm from Mangrove Capital from Luxembourg, which is a fairly traditional venture investor, having been investing in venture for 15, 17 years now. My own background, though, is from telecoms, where I was head of operations COO for Skype for the first 4 years of its existence, and saw how that pretty much wrecked some of the business models of the existing telecoms providers. And I'm intrigued to see how this is going to happen through the new generation of distributed technology as it affects the finance system. So first place it's going to hit me is probably at home in people raising capital through venture capital. So I thought, well, we better get on and investigate that. So we've got a team of people investing in the space. We wrote a report back in October, which was the first report on ICO, showed that if you just randomly spread your money on ICO, you'd have made a 1,320 times return on your money, which would have been great if it had really been realistic, but there we are. And I'm also on the board of blockchain.com and a couple of other crypto companies.
Thank you. Peter?
Hi, I'm Peter Randall, CEO of SETL. Previous life, I was the founder and first chief executive of a business called TenX, which brought 21st century technology and 21st century engineering to the trading space. Recently sold, that whole business was sold to CBOE for 3.2 billion, having been founded with 25 million. The observation there was that by putting really good modern technology into industries that still ran basically COBOL on mainframes, you could make a real difference. SETL is all about making that difference in what we think is now the most exciting space, which is the post-trade space. Post-trade is dominated still, as most people are aware, by COBOL on mainframes. We can do again to the post-trade space what we were able to do with TenX in the trading space. You've got to do that in a very specific way. You've got to have a chain which is highly compatible with the way in which financial institutions work. So it's got to be ISO 27001. It's got to have all the sorts of necessary cybersecurity stuff. Interestingly, it's got to be very cheap. And it's got to be delivered in a way that is going to make a big difference to the institutions that are using it. Our first chain that you will probably come across, and we're very excited about this, is a business called Isnes in France with the asset managers, which seeks to disintermediate transfer agents and really make a difference to the way in which records are kept in this space. That, I think, by the end of the year, will have somewhere in the region of between 800 billion and €1 trillion of assets on it. That will make it, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest chain in the world, much bigger than all the cryptocurrencies added together. So it's a very exciting time. That's a single asset. We've got the same thing happening in Luxembourg. We've got the same thing happening in many other jurisdictions as well. Very, very exciting. Thank you.
Okay, Peter. I think we have two themes today about blockchain and the cryptocurrency ICO space. Let me start with the blockchain space, and maybe David, maybe if you can start. What is hot in 2018? Meaning, we've been through a lot of POCs and labs and networks and business networks coming up. What is real? What's coming into production this year from R3 perspective? And then I will ask you, Joe, the same question from Ethereum perspective, because I think there's a race now into production 2018.
Yeah, it's not that the POC is dead. There's still a lot of work being done, but we're definitely spending our resources focusing on a production environment. Many of those POCs graduated to pilot. They've done live transactions, but in the pilot environment, which is a very controlled environment. So at R3, we're spending a lot of time focusing on thinking about what that operating environment looks like. Because as a CEO of a couple exchanges, I have appreciation for the type of support model that's demanded by the customers that we intend to face. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about that. There's going to be more about that later this year. We call that Corda Connect. There's about 100 apps that I know of that are being built on top of Corda at the moment. There's a number of them that are going live in the next 6 months. So 2018 is the year of production for sure. First app for us is going live in about 2 months.
So out of the 100, is there a killer app out there?
Well, one of the things which I should have checked with the PR people because I'm pretty sure it's public is we're working with a large software provider that is porting their bespoke product to the cloud on top of Corda, and that's Finastra and something called LenderCom, which is their syndicated loan solution, and I pray to God that's been announced. But so we're excited about that because it's an existing business that wants to take advantage of Corda to safely and securely move their kind of bespoke implementations into the cloud and add additional services on top. But there's also stuff in FX settlement, in high-quality liquid assets businesses we're pretty excited about, which allows for the swapping of different securities.
Joe, from an Ethereum perspective, I think the Ethereum Alliance, Enterprise Alliance, has over 600, 800 members already. It's growing rapidly.
350, but thank you.
350, okay.